Hey, I'm Sadi and welcome to Sadi's Tea, taking a look at a kit that I'm surprised took me this long to get, the HGUC 059 Dom/Rick Dom. I've always really wanted this kit, though never had any justification in getting it as my priorities were still the 0080 HG line for the longest while. That was until I got myself an HGUC 166 Johnny Raiden High Mobility Saku, fell a bit too in love, and thought to myself that it desperately needed a friend. And frankly, I was blown away with how great this kit is, and of course, I'm here to gush about it. It's Sadi's tea, shutting up is not my forte. Now don't mind my beaten up box, this was the last one the seller had, and it was a pretty decent aftermarket price so I kinda had to settle with it. And we can still see the wonderful box art up at front, with the Dom over here signifying through the landscape, and the Rick Dom firing up all of its many thrusters. Show off. And just to clarify, this kit doesn't come with two models inside, rather pieces that lets the kit be either the Dom or the Rick Dom. The choice is yours. And while we're here on the runners already, we get a total of 5 polystyrene runners and then the 116 Polycap runner. Take note of this, it's important. What's nifty is that the parts that determine which Dom you're building can be easily gated off, which has been done for the several times that this kit has been recolored. As for the manual, it's the typical 4-page HGUC layout, and surprisingly no Katoki line art. As you can see, all of the instructions are on the monochrome side, meaning that despite being unique in its construction, the build is quite simple, taking me only around an hour and a half to fully assemble, without much trouble in the way. And here's the completed HGUC Dom, looking absolutely gorgeous. Just like what I said in my Marasai review, this really was when Bandai started to get quite good at segmenting their parts. The color accuracy is great, probably because the scheme's quite simple, with the only obvious details missing being the mono eye, which I already used the sticker on, and the scattering beam cannon, which too has a sticker, but it's up to you if you want to paint the scattering beam cannon's blue trim, as modern designs have omitted that detail. Is it detail? I actually don't know right now. And one other major color of the Dom is the internal red lining, like here on the shoulder pads. HG kits don't usually have colored internals, hence why the shins and skirts are left to be painted, but with how simple the design of the shoulder pads are, it's a fun addition and makes the model look that much better. But there is one huge color discrepancy with this kit, and it all has to do with the main purple itself. The original design is a more muted, cool-toned shade, just how we like it here on Sadi's Tea. However, I do fancy the color in this cup as well. Less grape candy wrapper, more grape candy itself. We see this as well in the future Black Tri-Stars HGUC kits, and it's quite beautiful with how the pinkish tones contrast with the plentiful amount of pitch black. And it's not just the colors that have gotten quite an improvement, the seamline management as well is quite stellar, where the only ones to be rid of are on the side of the chest, the spherical shoulders, on the front and back of the knee joint, and then the small segment on the shins, as the rest of it actually is supposed to have a split. Very minimal for an old kit, and it really helps the clean aesthetic of the model, with its large, smooth surfaces that really brings out the gorgeous shapes of the Dom, faithful to the original show, though more refined in a more modern manner. Still, would have liked to have seen larger shoulder pads. But just because this kit is mainly smooth planes doesn't mean that it lacks detail. On the contrary, while the outside only has a few notches here and there and some very pretty joint detailing, it's the internals that amazes me. The back skirt piece has a bit of chiseled panel lining on the inside that, again, would be really nice if brought out with some red paint. And the mono-eye mechanism is just absolutely wonderful. There's a ton of mechanical details that give the track a bit more sense, and most of it is going to be hidden away by the outer shell. Details like this is stuff that I just really love to appreciate. Then there's the bottom of the feet, which is exquisitely detailed. Though, I guess now's the best time to look at the differences between the Dom and the Rick Dom. Now forgive my statement if it's an oxymoron, but the most obvious yet inconspicuous change to the Dom and the Rick Dom is on the feet. Again, the Dom has this incredibly beautiful central jet engine. Like, I cannot imagine how difficult it would have been to sculpt something this beautiful, and it's even much more detailed than the master grade kit. And the Rick Dom has this triple thruster design that admittedly isn't as impressive, still very nicely detailed though. Then there's the back skirt with the Rick Dom's kinda hard to see added thruster details. And then the extended bottom lip, which originated from the master grade kit. The internal details reflect that as well. Another aspect taken from the master grade Rick Dom was the change to the backpack thrusters. which now have these large bells that's more sensible for space use. But of course, the Dom backpack still looks nice, and if you want to go for an anime-accurate Rick Dom, the choice is obvious. And one final major difference we see nowadays is this, the beam bazooka, and the names don't get more on the nose than that. Now, this didn't appear in the original show or the movie trilogy, rather it was a supplementary idea in the novelization that was first visually manifested in the Master Grade Rick Dom kit. The sensor here on the side does need a clear piece and a sticker, but I left mine out because I do not want to lose all of that really nice detailing. Oh, and the other scope doesn't come with any lenses, which is accurate, except it's not? Huh? It nicely goes into the hands of the Rick Dom, though a bit loose. And since the handle has a hinge joint, you can angle the weapon into more natural, dynamic poses. But the Dom is better known for the giant bazooka. It's also based off the Master Grade Doms, so it's visually quite nice, delightfully chunky and detailed. However, I'm not the biggest fan of how stubby the front sides are, and the scope mount over here is a bit on the scary fragile side. Trust me, my Johnny Raiden Zaku would know. And just like earlier, I did keep this clear piece out of the socket for further customization in the future. And of course a sticker as well. As for functionality, this bracket on the front can swing, though it does swing a bit too much sometimes. The side handle can move around for some double-handed poses, and again, the main grip can swing forward for more natural positions, and the Dom looks lovely with it. Then, of course, what's a Dom without its heat saber? I mean, it's been staring at us this whole time, kinda waiting for its turn on the holster. And well, yeah, it's a heat saber. Not really much to say besides the fact that this shade of yellow is a bit too buttery for my taste. Sadly, but not surprisingly, you don't get a blue piece for the heat of the saber, but other kits do actually have one, specifically the Jetstream Attack Triple Dom set and the P-Bandai Anavel Gatto Custom. So if you really want one, get it from there. But even if it's not activated, the heat saber goes into the hands quite securely, and it looks great on the model. However, all of the hands that hold on to accessories do suffer from a bit of an issue, where the friction on that finger connection can easily slip. I've tried thickening the pegs using CA before, but I guess I may have to do it a bit more and on all sides. And yeah, I guess it's probably time to talk about the gorgeously sculpted hands this kit comes with, which are these two open fists, a single right trigger finger hand, and a single left open palm that are all absolutely huge. This is size difference BL kind of yaoi hands. Now that does mean we run into some sizing problems with sharing accessories, but the weapons we'd probably want on the Dom do have smaller or similarly sized grips, so play around with some of your model kit firearms and the Dom's artillery can expand. Funnily enough, the gripping hands have the opposite problem, where the 2.5mm hole isn't big enough for a lot of modern accessories. But luckily, the old HGUC Heat Hawk works a treat, and you can get the Dom to hold the Gelgoog Naginata better than that kid could. But it's not just the hands that got enlarged. The wrists are 0.5 mm wider than the standard 3.5 diameter, which does exist in a handful of HGUC kits, but they're all quite specific and there isn't any extra options for Dom hands. There was a sort of official extra handset released in the High Detail Manipulators line by B Club, which does not sound right having brought up yaoi, but those have been discontinued about a decade ago, so getting one is just gonna be a journey on its own. The only other Dom hands you can get are in the Triple Dom set, but it's so specific that I don't think anybody's gonna hunt that kit down just for this conjoined pair. So as for now, these 4 are your only options for Dom hands, which is still quite a satisfying lot. Now the cause of this whole conundrum was the polycaps chosen for this kit, the PC-116 runner. First used in the Master Grade Alex 1.0, used in all of the 1100 seed kits, and debuted in HGUC in the 004 Cubile. These polycaps were made to be stronger for more heavy-duty kits, hence the larger wrist socket. Now it's thought that the kit's size needs a ton of support. Standing at just below 13 centimeters, the height is just right for 1/144th scale, and it looks great next to a BL, that stands for bootleg, 241 Zaku 2. But the MS that would really paint a picture of this model size is the massive 043 Rick Dom 2 at its Gelgoog height. Both kits share a similar amount of bulk, but their construction are so vastly different, with the Dom/Rick Dom kit having much larger connections. Now that does kind of restrict the kit bashing potential, but at the very least the pegs are nice and strong, ready to be put into a variety of dynamic poses. And starting with the head, it's on an interesting system, where it's just the standard port and hinge polycap. So the movement is a very slight head swivel and a look up that's actually quite decent, revealing some of the lovely internals from beneath the chin. Oh, and going back inside of the dom, the mono-eye is actually on an L-shaped bracket with a ball joint, meaning that you can turn the mono-eye side to side and also up and down the dom's cross track. It is slightly annoying that you have to remove this red segment every time you wish to access it, but this is the simplest method, and hey, there's a clear piece just like the Rick Dom too. Both the Dom and the Rick Dom's backpacks have thrusters that can move up and down. They're conjoined out of the box, but it is actually possible to split them. And the holster for the heat saber, which visually does call back to the Master Grade's clamp style one, is on a swivel so you can angle it however you wish. Butterfly joint located on the inside of the torso that moves the arms forward, and it can also shift the shoulders upwards. The shoulder pads do just kinda sit on the peg, being sandwiched right between the torso and the shoulder sphere. So when you move the arms a full 360, the shoulder pads also follow along. The shoulder sphere itself can come out to a little over 90, but the shifting joint allows for up to 120. Bicep swivel, a single joint right angle elbow, and we've already gone over this ball joint conundrum. Then we move on to the section that confused me the most originally, the torso. There's a polycap beneath the breastplate that can crunch, arc, and move side to side, though visually and tactile-wise, it barely feels like you're doing anything. However, I still feel like it's quite an important joint, as even a subtle change in the posture can make your poses look a lot more dynamic. Then there's the waist, which has this central block in the core, a core block if you will, I'm a genius, which restricts the swivels and actually not really. The waist would still crash into the skirts anyways, so the rotation was never going to be good. And while I'm not 100% sure, I believe the reason as to why this block exists is as reinforcement for when you arc the body so that it doesn't stress out the stubby peg too much. And to achieve this, they had to move the joint on the model backwards. Honestly, I'm not a huge fan of this design, it feels really experimental and kinda flimsy, but strangely, despite the confusion, it still works pretty great on the model. Oh, and I guess there's the skirt thrusters as well. Hinge joint swivel. Front skirts are on a hinge so it can move up this much, and the side skirts barely move at all, so truthfully, there isn't much clearance for the legs. They can move forwards to around 60 degrees, and a bit over if you get the knees over the skirt. The kick out moves to around 30 degrees, and funnily enough, the dumpy gives this... And funnily enough, the dumpy gives the backwards movement enough clearance to move 60 degrees as well. Go figure. Of course, the hip ball joint allows for a slight thigh swivel. Double jointed knees, but the bulbous shapes only allows for a 90-degree bend. And the feet have an interesting system, where there's a joint at an extreme point so the feet can move out this much, and these connected thruster bells also have a joint on them. And the foot itself has a ball joint and socket on the ankle, meaning it can move forward, back not very well, swivel actually pretty good, and then tilt quite well. So while the articulation is a bit compromised to keep the visuals intact, there's still plenty of fun in the function, and while I can see a modernized version of this kit existing, no, I'm not talking about the Quacks one, I feel like it would probably be a 1.5 upgrade like its Master Grade counterpart, as the model itself is still incredibly solid. The 2006 era of mainline HG was just enough to capture the character of the MS, without any embellished bells and whistles. Just the essential experience of the iconic chunky Dom. And that experience is something any HG collector can enjoy. The Dom is just one of those universally loved designs in Gundam, and it remains at that really nice price point. So if you're interested in getting yourself another Gundam model, then the HGUC Dom/Rick Dom kit is something you won't regret. And that about finishes the review, so if you'd like to support what we do here on Sadi's Tea, consider giving the video a like, sharing the video around, and subscribing as a lot of major changes are coming your way soon. And to keep up to date with that, go check out my other social media platforms. All support is very much welcome, and I'm very excited for what the future holds. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way through, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thanks for stopping by for some tea.